Open up the February 25th, 2022 regular planning board meeting. Consistent with the governor's orders extending certain provisions of the open meeting law, every effort will be made to allow the public to view and/or listen to the meeting in real time. Persons who wish to do so are invited to click the provided link. If you do not have a camera or microphone on your computer, you may use the provided dial-in number. Please only use dial-in or computer and not both, as audio feedback will distort the meeting. This meeting will be audio and video recorded in compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. This location is accessible to people with disabilities. Wakefield provides reasonable accommodations and/or language assistant free of charge to people upon request. If you are a person with a disability and require information or materials on an alternate format, or you require any accommodations, please contact the town's disability coordinator, William Arnault, town engineer, at 781-246-6308 as far in advance of the event as possible. Every effort will be made to grant your request. Advance notification will enable the town to make reasonable arrangements to remove an accessibility barrier for you. All right. Item 1, call to order. Take a roll call vote. Bill Spalding.
Here.
Theo Knoll.
Here.
Jim Hogan.
Here.
And myself, Matt Lowry, are present. Megan will not be with us tonight. We also have Susan Odd and Aaron Kokenda with us. Approval of meeting minutes. We have not received the meeting minutes. Is that correct? For the 8th?
I have them. I'm reviewing them. I'm going to review them with Susan, but we should have them ready for next meeting, correct, Susan?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we will postpone that until our next meeting. We do have a public hearing that starts at 7:15, but in the meantime, we can get a few items out of the way. We have 2 public hearing dates to set. Because of notification time frame, the earliest we could do it would be February 22nd. Erin, will you have enough time for both of these to get them filed?
I was talking and didn't realize I was muted. Eventually I'll get a hang of this. Yeah, I'll have enough time. I have the rest of the week now, and as long as I get something to the item by the end of next week, I should be all set for it to be posted the following week.
Okay. I'm going to jump ahead to item 5, set public hearing date for proposed zoning amendment affecting 343 Albion Street. Attorney McGrail, I see you on here. Do you have a sense on how long your presentation would be, and how much time you think you'd need?
I think I'm thinking probably 15 minutes to 20 minutes. I don't think it's pretty straightforward.
Okay. All right. So what we'll do is we'll set the public hearing for proposed zoning amendment affecting 343 Albion Street for February 22nd, 2022 at 7:15. Now,
Sounds good.
providing the we need to send, is this what we need to send notices to abutters, or is this just, no, this is just posting in the paper, correct? So,
And also we'll have to post it at town hall as well. And then the newspaper, and Brian, forgive me if there's something else I'm forgetting. But I think those are the main things, just because it's for the general public. I don't think we have to notify any abutters.
Yeah, we just need to notify the abutting city and town planning boards.
Right, yeah.
And DHCD.
all right,
Yeah, I have all those forms that Paul Rivas had gave me, Mr. Chair. He had done this a number of times, and I'm happy to share with you and Aaron. He had given those to me before he left.
all right, and payment for that, how does that work? Does that come out of the town's budget, or?
No, usually what will happen is, in the past, Sherry will get the bill, and she will forward it to me to have my client pay
Okay,
for the publication.
all right. Jim, I saw you had your hand up. Did you have a
Yeah.
question?
Without getting into any, the merits of the proposed change, in reviewing it earlier today, how is this not spot zoning? I thought that was something that was not allowed, not allowed to rezone one parcel.
Well, that's, again, that's discussion we should really be taken up during the meeting, because this has come up before, and we'll have the explanation again at that time. So I think it'd be better to wait until, because other people may be wondering that, and we don't want to start discussion now. So. All right, so we'll set that for 7:15. Okay. Item number 4, set public hearing for citizens petition, repeal of zoning bylaw section 190-31H. As people know, this was originally came before us for fall town meeting. It did come kind of late, so we only had one meeting for a public hearing, and actually we're gonna continue that public hearing after this. We're gonna set that public hearing date for February 22nd, 2022, and we'll set that for 7:45. So again, Aaron, I guess we can run the same, basically the same text that was run in the fall.
Yes, and we'll follow the same thing with the posting in the newspaper, abutting communities. So same.
All right. So for this one, for payment, again, does this get sent to the petitioner?
Previously, it actually came from our budget, but I'm gonna review that and see. I'm gonna talk to town council, Tom Mullen, but I'll confirm that.
All right, it would seem that, whatever's decided, it should be equal for both. So if the town's paying for one, then perhaps the town needs to pay for both, or if the petitioner's paying for them, then the petitioner needs to pay for them. So
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
We'll make sure that's consistent. Mhm.
Okay. All right. So we've got those two set. February 22nd, the Albion Street at 7:15, and the repeal the zoning bylaw section 190-31H at 7:15. All right. So we're all set with that. So again, we have a public hearing starting in a few minutes. So I'm gonna give us a few minutes to make sure everyone that wants to be part of this is here, and then I'm gonna call to order that. So. And we do have item 6. I would rather wait till after the public hearing on that for discussion of that. So. All right. So I'm just going to give it a few minutes. Actually, since we do have a few minutes, I'm going to jump ahead to actually item number 8, discussion of subdivision rules and regulations. This is something that I want to get on the agenda. I have a couple ideas for changes for the A&R subdivision rules and regs. Again, they're going to be something pretty minimal that I'm proposing, but I'm gonna get those drafted and send them out to people. And if other people have, any thoughts on that, we can definitely do that. Since the A&R rules and regs were just basically, they were modified not too long ago. It was just before the pandemic. So some of the items I want to change is the filing, the number of copies and things like that. So that's what I'm hoping to do. For the overall subdivision rules and regulations, like I said before, we had a book that basically was updated and went into E-code, and there are some changes that came out of that I think they came because of basically an input error, not actually were done with any thought. There were no actual zoning changes proposed or enacted upon. They just basically got into the book incorrectly. Paul Revis has gone through and basically highlighted the changes that were made, and also basically gave us a footprint or a blueprint on how to correct that. So I'm going to send that out to people so you can review that. And that is something that I think we should take up. We can start with that, and then we're going to invite the engineering and DPW to comment on it, because there are some items that are normally waived for every subdivision that, if we continue to waive them, then we should just revise our rules and regulations so we don't have to do that. So,
Matt, can I just ask a question real quick? In
sure.
regards to the book with the subdivision rules and regulations that Paul worked on and kind of redlined things that, so is it things that are missing that are in the book that aren't on E-code? Is that, or?
Basically, the order of plans changed.
Okay.
So that was one of them. There used to be one of the plans was a standalone existing additions plan. Somehow that got morphed into an existing additions and demolition plan.
Okay.
So things like that. I haven't looked at it in a while, but there are basically items like that need to be looked at.
Cleaned up. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. No, I was just gonna say I've been the one that's been notifying E-code for any bylaw changes, and also have gone through to make any edits. So if this would kind of fall under my, under the work that I do. So
Okay.
we'll just
Yeah.
keep working together.
I'll pull that out and get that to you. I've just got to go through my email. I have it stored on a computer somewhere. It's been years, so I'm not quite sure, but I think I can pull it out of my email. I've seen it
Okay.
recently, so it's just
Yeah, and I'll
finding
check through Paul's files as well. And just one more thing to add, I have been talking to Bill Vernau, since I've started. We work together very closely about us looking at our rules and regs, and he would love to be part of this conversation, even with the A&Rs as well. So if we wanted to, we don't have to set that meeting today, or maybe it's offline, but he would be more than happy to come to a meeting sometime in March or so.
All right. I definitely want to put this on the agenda for our next meeting, so we can start the discussion then at least. And then at that point we can invite, because we're going to have this, then we're going to have a public hearing where we're going to invite public after we've basically gone through and done most of the edits. And then from that, we can draft our new rules and regs and get them posted and enacted. So
great.
All right. Well, now it's 7:17. I'm going to open up the continued public hearing for the citizens petition repeal of zoning section bylaw 190-31H. So again, this is a continuation of the public hearing from the fall. If people remember, we had started this we felt like we didn't have enough time to review all of the items that have been brought up. So at this point, it's just a formality. Mr. Liu, I see you're on here. Are there any items you want to discuss basically before we close this and then set a new one coming up for a couple of weeks?
I don't have anything additional to add.
All right, I know one of the items we had discussed was possibly seeing if there are other projects in town that this could have been applied to, but wasn't, to see if, have you done any work on that to see if there are some projects?
Yeah, I did have that listing, and I had placed it on the shared Google Drive. Not sure if it was referenced, but I did find some.
Okay. All right. Do any board members have any discussion on this before we open up to public hearing and then close out on this?
For reference, if for other board members who didn't see it, I think that what Mr. Liu was referencing was an Excel document with, I think there's 5 different projects with a notice of intent and a variance that was granted. And I think it looks like another 5 that notice of intent was provided, but no variance was required by the board. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Liu, but I think that's what you're referring to, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
All right, and those are projects that were within 50 feet of a stream or not?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, all right. All right, so if no board members have any other thoughts at this point, I'm going to open this up to the public. Anyone in the public want to comment on the citizens petition repeal of the zoning section bylaw 190-31H?
Matt, it's Bill. Do you want me to share the actual notice? Would that help?
We can do it now, or we can perhaps do it when we open up the new one. So
Well, that's why I wanted to ask. I want to, if anybody was going to comment on it, I want to make sure they're aware of what the zoning bylaw provision is.
Well, if anyone has any comments on that, so
Okay.
All right, so one last chance. Anyone have any comments on the public hearing we have continued from the fall? All right. Do I hear a motion to close the public hearing that was begun in the fall?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing. As noted, is the public hearing, trying to see, do we need to have a specific public hearing?
I'd say the
Provision.
continued public hearing for the citizen petition repeal section 190-31H began in the fall of 2021.
So I was looking for October 26, 2021. So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, second by Theo. All right, all in favor of closing the public hearing? Jim Hogan,
Yes.
Bill Spalding,
Yes.
Theo Knoll,
Yes.
and myself, yes. All right. So again, we closed the public hearing. In 2 weeks, we're going to have a new public hearing to take up the same item again. So, all right. So take care of that. All right, now we're moving on to item 6. This is basically, we're not going to review the ZBA's rejection. I know it says this in this, but we're going to set a date to do this, because what we need to do is we need to notify basically all parties of interest. So this, we do not have to have a public hearing, so it does not need to be posted in the paper, but we do need to send notices to all parties of interest, which is basically the butters across the street from 0 Cherry Lane and all the butters within 300 feet. So I know, Aaron, you had a little clarification on this. Again, this is something that the petitioner would need to get the abutters list, official abutters list. And would he would need to also address and pay
Yeah.
for postage?
So I spoke to Tom Mullen. We don't need to publish in the newspaper, but like Matt just said, we do have to notify the abutters within 300 feet and what Matt just said, the neighbors. And what you need to do, is go to the assessor's office and get the list according to what I just mentioned. And then if you want to add, stamp and address them, label them, I'm sorry, and give them to me, I can put the public notice in and we can make sure that we get that out.
So is it postcard or letter?
I do envelopes.
Okay.
All right, so the assessors will do the official list and tell you how many people and the names as on file right now. So I know we do not have a public hearing for this, but I'm still a little unclear on, I mean, we're sending this out to parties of interest. I would assume that we could hear from those parties of interest. Would we only limit that to the people that we send the notice to? It's a little unclear on who gets to say in this, since it's not a public hearing per se. So I guess we can clear that up in the meantime. So, Need, did you have something to say?
Yeah. Can I just ask that the title of the meeting or hearing, not hearing, the meeting be corrected. So so the actual ZBA decision, the unfavorable decision, was back in June of 2020. And from my perspective, I think this meeting is just the planning board hearing me out on my request to go back into the ZBA by proving that the condition that caused the unfavorable decision was substantially changed. So it's not so much. So that's my reading of the law. I mean, that's. Can I share the law again with you guys? I mean, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Is that fair?
Sure.
Okay. Oops. Can someone allow me to share?
Yeah.
I could do it, Matt.
Yeah, go ahead, Bill, if you want to do that.
So can I just chime in? I did talk to Tom Mullen in regards to this. So for this decision to be reversed, with the rescission being 6/16/20, for the decision to be reversed within 2 years, not less than 4 of the 5 planning board members would have to consent after notice to abutters. So this is the mail notice, but not the published notice, to be able to go in front of the ZBA before the 2 years. That's my understanding.
Yep. That's correct. That's what I see.
And I'm not allowed to give Mr. Liu.
Oh, I see it now. I see it now.
Oh, can you do it now? Okay, because I
Yeah, I can
switched
see it.
it. You did, okay, good, perfect.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right,
So
Mr. Lee, you can bring this up, but we can't really discuss it in depth until,
oh yeah. No, that's fine.
Okay,
Yeah, I totally agree. No, I'm just trying to clarify that. I think the title that for this item is just a little misleading because the decision didn't happen in November of 2020.
correct.
So
And,
I did.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I included those dates because that's the last time that the planning board discussed this. So we're more than happy to change that date to the appropriate when the ZBA, and I can talk to Matt about how we do that. But those dates were just the last time that the planning board discussed this project.
And so, I mean, this is pretty much the bylaw and you know, my intention is just to come in and share that the condition that caused the unfavorable action has gone through specific and material changes. That's it. That's all I'm going to do. And it's going to take me 2 minutes.
Okay. Now you're aware that at the last time this was voted on, I recused myself.
Yes.
And I
Yep.
will be recusing myself again when this comes up
Yep.
again. So we're going to have to
So
make
it'll be a
sure
full house.
that you have support from all the remaining members. So,
Mhm.
all right, I just wanted to set that clear. So when would you want to have this, that we take this up?
Yeah, so I mean, the requirement is just to notify, so I'll get you the list, and as soon as we can notify the interested parties, you know, that I'd love to have that hearing or a meeting.
So it could be, I would say, as early as also February 22nd, or would you want to wait till after the public hearing for your initial?
Oh, no, definitely. This is, I consider this separate. You know, I mean, the thing in May for the repeal that may or may not go through, you know, I can't really afford to wait because just, I mean, if I waited for this 2-year cooling off period to end, I wouldn't be able to start building until potentially August or September. And that's pretty much the whole year. And then I'd be out there in the freezing cold trying to work at my house.
I understand that. It's just that you have a public hearing where it's my concern is that this is going to get conflated, and you're going to have people speaking at the public hearing on this specific item. So that's why you could have it that night, but there's going to be people perhaps are going to speak to things they shouldn't be speaking of, and I don't know, you know, we'll do our best to avoid that, but there's going to be some confusion here about what's being brought up. That's all. So that's why I mentioned if you want to have it on the 22nd, that's your, you know, your prerogative.
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, you know, because you know, I don't think it should be complicated, but you never know. And I had to contend with getting on the ZBA schedule, and there's like a whole month waiting, and so I'd rather just try to get it over with.
Okay. All right. So we'll set action on this for February 22nd, 2022. And that's going to be a agenda item of review, or I guess it's going to be the same thing, review of ZBA rejection letter of Cherry Lane variance.
Of June, we'll change it to of June 21st, 2020.
Of June.
That's when the ZBA rescinded their vote, sorry, of what they originally voted for.
All right. Is it, I've got June 16th on one item.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
that's what it was
sorry.
recorded. That was when it was recorded. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, so it's June 16th, 2020.
okay.
All right.
Matt, real quick, you might know I know this is a unique situation we're dealing, which I haven't dealt with personally in the last year. The notification, and I can check with Tom Mullen, are we set to any certain time, the whole 2 weeks? Do you know? Is this something you guys have dealt with before? Notifying abutters, I'm sorry. Or-
I didn't see anything in that.
Yeah, I didn't see
law.
anything either. I just didn't know. I'm sure the sooner the better, but
Well, in the letter, we'll say that, you know, we're gonna hear this, or we're gonna be taking this up on February 22nd also. So again, if people, if parties of interest want to speak at that point on this, I think we will allow them to do that. We're gonna limit it to just basically parties of interest, so it's not
Okay.
like it's open townwide.
general public, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sounds good.
so all February 22nd.
All right. So I think we're all set with that. All right.
Okay,
Thank you very much. All right. Item number 7. Discussion of Lake Overlay District. So I don't know. Bill, do you have any further action on this at this point, or?
I do. Jim and I met, and we actually met with Aaron as well to discuss a little bit more about what the master planning advisory group is reviewing and thinking about timing and understanding that, and Jim, please jump in, that our goal is to have something prepared and ready in a very non-solution driven, but more information giving mode. The idea is to make sure that whoever would be attending this possible future meeting would be able to review this presentation that would be posted to our website. They would be prepared for the meeting, and at the beginning of that meeting, we would quickly review the 8 to 10 pages that we have to highlight the timeline, the purpose, the locations that we're looking at, the different zoning rules and bylaws that we are concerned with, as well as the 2030 vision, which there was a lot of input from the town. With that, I could quickly share the updates that we made for the from the last meeting, if that's something the board wants to do.
Sure, yeah.
And I apologize in advance for not getting the updates to the board earlier. I did do them today. So I apologize.
Well, we've all been behind on stuff. It's just
Right.
been a little crazy with stuff.
So if you can all see my screen, this slide did not change. Wakefield Planning Board. We did, as we went into the timeline review, we did decide to change some of the wording a little bit to make sure it includes and review improvements and incentives. We changed a few things here. Lake Quantapowhat District is what we came up with as a better name than Lake Zoning, Lake whatever it might be. But I kept this down the middle, where Planning Board Lake Zoning, just to keep that as our running subtitle down there. Didn't change anything from the goals sheet. As we discussed in the meeting, it's still the same. Looking at Lake Quantapowhat District, making sure Quantapowhat was in there and so it wouldn't be confused, as a suggestion from Attorney McGrail. And the rest of this was just more of locations and the 3 different maps: top of the lake, northwest corner, North Ave, and Quantapowhat. And then I did add in Betts Field, as it seems in conversation, that's what it's usually referred to, but that's southwest corner. The maps, in this case, updated to no scribbling on top of them, the clean ones. And in the same order as mentioned above, the top of the lake, the northwest corner, and the southwest corner of Betts Field. And with the 2 maps, one showing the town zoning, and a little bit of a code there too, NB neighborhood, B business, and the other one had limited business as the only other. Moving into the other slides, combining what we're up against, like the current zoning, what we reviewed. So I did combine that zoning freeze or lock slide with table 1 and table 2. So it just helped with an understanding and really just slimmed it down. There are notes here, like if a parcel not developed, I put that in here as under the notes instead of on the sheet, more as a conversation topic than a bullet point. There was a question whether it is actually 7 years, thinking of when the approved subdivision plan or when the subdivision plan was approved, it could actually turn into 8 years. Was Aaron, I can't remember exactly how that conversation went, but I don't know.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. I just want to make sure we're clear on this information where an endorsed approval not required A&R plan will lock zoning for 3 years. I'm confident in that statement. An approved subdivision plan will lock zoning for 7 years. 7 years. That's the one I don't have full confidence in.
From my understanding, it's 8. I know Jim said that he read that it could be 7, depending. I don't know, Jim, if you want to chime in. It's still something I'm confirming, and I can get you an answer as soon as possible.
Yeah,
But
I'm
sure it's 8.
yeah, I haven't circled back on that yet, but I can do so. But yeah, when I looked it up in Mass General Law, it was depending on when it was when you applied for it, it would be either 7 or 8, depending on where in the calendar.
Okay, so maybe we do this at the end and put a little asterisk. And the asterisk in our notes, we can explain if needed. Again, it's a discussion, so I think that's part of our understanding. So that wraps up our zoning board side of it. And then the next slide pulls together like the 6 slides that we had for Vision 2030. I kept going back and forth with all the different information. And what really stuck out was that first sentence we had from the Vision 2030 efforts, our board sees value in the survey results. And then this one was the one that Jim and I thought would be the one that really stands out and speaks to pretty much all the rest of what we're trying to do. I did add in here all of the other information. So if we do want to discuss it, it could be part of the slides. This is from the survey. And then I do have the link in there for the full survey. And I wasn't sure if we did want to incorporate or create another slide that did add the survey results or something about where to review all the survey results. The last comment on this I have is when we do post this to the planning board page, my thought is right below it, we have a link, a cross link to the 2030 survey results.
Yeah, we may want to have a page that has, links for more information for everything, zoning map, full zoning maps,
Yeah.
zoning code.
That's a great idea.
So that way, if people want to do more research on their own, at least this stuff is readily available. They don't need to search too far for it. It'll at least bring them to where they can get the background on things. So
that would be after we would have more of a reference or resource page at the end.
yeah,
Okay.
I think that would be good. So
I like that idea.
it just gets kind of cluttered with if you're doing a presentation and you have clickable links on a presentation that you're supposed to be watching and not actively working on. But
Right.
if we throw them at the end, I think that it's a good.
Okay. So we can pull these links as well to it.
Yeah,
I really like that idea.
Hey, Bill, just as an update, I just went and found where I found the notes for the zoning freeze. So
Yeah.
it is 8 years. For some reason, I thought there was a specific duration as it relates to where in the calendar, but it was actually January 1st of 1976. So that's the 7 years is not going to be applicable.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. And this slide didn't change from our last meeting. Being clear, pulling this all together. Maybe it did change a little bit. So this is an important slide for us to look at. The Wakefield Planning Board is considering creating a lake overlay district to better improve public pedestrian access to the lake. So in somewhere in here, maybe it's Lake Quannapowitt, and help preserve the scenic quality. We are doing this in cooperation with residents, businesses, and landowners. This new overlay district might potentially affect the business zoning of properties surrounding Lake Quannapowitt, and we are looking forward for residential, business, and public input. We are not looking to do any harm or abridge anyone's property rights, rather consider how to plan the future together. Any comments or edits for this page?
I think at this point, this just, summarizes, I think, the direction of why we're trying to collect more of this information. And I think that it's a strong way to kind of start heading people towards what the actual actionable items are within this presentation.
Okay. And the last page would be overlay discussion topics, like what are preferred uses, potential increase in density for, like we hit this really right at the beginning. I think we rearranged this with help from comments from everybody. Hit it right away with what are preferred uses. Just that open discussion. What would you like to see around the lake? Potential increase in density for adding preferred uses. So it ties back into those preferred uses. Eliminate special permit requirements. That's a big topic to discuss. I like that one a lot. Direct access to lake for public use. Maximum width of buildings abutting lake. So it's getting into more of those setback type of things. Building setback distance from lake shoreline. And maximum height of buildings within overlay district. So you can see like these first two, I think belong at the top, where it's like, what are the preferred uses? What's the potential increase in density? And then it gets into more detailed and more focused pieces and parts. Do we want to go with these, edit?
Yeah, that's a good starting talking point, getting people, we can, obviously this isn't the end of the conversation, and we're just trying to get the conversation going with this. So
Right.
It's good.
As Jim pointed out, actually, I can't remember if it was in our last meeting or if it was in one of our subcommittee meetings, but if we don't have this is where we failed before. Like we really didn't have a set of questions to guide the discussion. And this, I think this is hitting it where we need to be. My concern is maybe there's too many, or is that not an issue?
I think that you need to have the things that we've talked about as potentially being part of this. There's a push and a pull. And I think, in terms of potential additional bonuses to the land unit owners in the envisioned potential district, as well as items that would be providing additional restrictions in order to provide or to protect that scenic quality. I think that these are the things that really hone in on what are the most likely actionable items that would come out of this discussion. And so I think that trying to pare it down off of this even more is going to, I think these are the items in the toolbox that are most likely to be used. So I think that it is incumbent upon us to kind of express that. if someone comes out with some awesome idea that from the public, it says, maybe we, do this as a benefit to the land users, or, this other item that could potentially, preserve scenic quality in some material way. I don't think that we should be open to that, but these are the ones that are really probably the most likely to, items to be included. So I think it's incumbent upon us to really communicate that to the public and solicit feedback of whether or not they are appropriate or not.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'm totally on board with the wording as it is. I think it's very helpful. So, and open to all. So I think it definitely supports our not wanting to do harm or abridge anyone's property rights.
And I think if I'm being 100% honest, I think we're at the point where we're ready to have this conversation with, to get this up on our website and start trying to drive engagement with this topic. I know that Aaron had brought up what I think is a valid set of points or concerns as it relates to, are we doing this in parallel or conjunction with the master planning process? And I think that I think those concerns are, they're real. However, I think that it makes sense where if we get this presentation ready to go and we start having that conversation with the public, maybe there's some sort of back and forth between us and the master plan advisory group. And so I think it makes sense for us to start looking at trying to get this onto our website, as well as getting some sort of meeting with the public, teed up and ready to go. I don't think that, I think it makes a lot of sense for us to get to a point where we can see if there's quality feedback from, teeing this up in a way that I think is maybe a little more conducive to driving a quality discussion with members of the public. And I think that we should seriously consider trying to set a date for getting this going. We reviewed this a couple times at these meetings, and I think we've done a really good job of being collaborative amongst the different members of the planning board. So I think it's pretty close to being fully baked.
All right, have you guys thought of when you might want to have this public forum?
Can I just chime in? Because I did talk to Bill and Jim about this. I am still going to kind of push back on this a little. I just don't want there to be confusion. The first conversation for the master plan and the public discussion is land use and zoning. And I don't want to take away from having the public be part of that conversation. Maybe they'll do both. I kind of get worried that people will get confused and of what is trying to be accomplished. Because while we're trying to talk at this at a larger scale for the town, I feel like this is kind of a subset of that discussion, which then can open up to a larger conversation where we kind of get that public feedback at this public meeting in April. And I know, we want to have something ready to go potentially by May, which is going to be really tight. But I guess I just don't want to add confusion to the public. I think this is, a great, I think all the work that's been done is great. I don't want to take away from it or push it back any further. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to engage the public to the best we can and not have this confusion. The master plan is talking about zoning and what we're looking at zoning, but the planning board's now throwing out this new zoning overlay. How does that tie into the master plan? So that's the only thing I'll say. I'll do, whatever the group wants to do to move forward and help promote it, but I just wanted to, put that out there. So.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Aaron. That's when you did speak with Jim and I about this, I thought about it after too, and thinking about public participation. That's what really hit with me, public participation. And if we are confusing people, that's not what we want to do. We do want it to be clear. And I feel like the master plan in this case does take some precedent, where we do want that overall plan of the town to be understood by the people of Wakefield. If this presentation that we have is ready to go at a moment's notice, and we can have that meeting scheduled when the timing is right. I do understand that as being possibly a better solution, a less confusing solution, if we do move forward with this and push it towards May for a town meeting.
And also the other thing I'll add, I did talk to our consultant today from MAPC, and he thinks it's great that you guys are working on this. And it is something that we, this product that you just presented today, that I will share with him, that will be shared with the advisor group, and something that will be tied into the survey that they do, the discussions at the public meeting. So it's something that's going to be incorporated either way. But I'm not saying don't have this public forum. I'm saying just let's think about the steps and how we engage the public with this. That's all I'll say.
From a timing perspective, our next advisory group meeting is what, beginning of March, and then survey, and then the public meeting.
So, yeah, so I know Carlos just sent out an email today. So we'll have our advisory and a second advisory group to talk about the first public meeting, which again is zoning, combined words, zoning and land use, as well as open space, I think. And so that's where we'll set some survey questions together, topics of discussion, talk about the poll questions that we want to see. And then that will have that 3-week period of the survey, which will be opened up after the public meeting. And so I'm trying to look at his email right here for the date, which I think we're shooting for the beginning of April, end of March, because we are, on a contract and a timeline here. So, and there might be some really great things that come out of the survey results too, that can be tied into what you guys are looking to do. So.
So I guess the question is, what do we want to do as a board? Do we want to go ahead and schedule a meeting, a forum to share this with the town? Or do we want to wait?
For me, I don't feel like we need to be rushing this any more than we need to, because as we know, there a lot of these properties do have basically zoning freezes on them. It's I just think if we're having these forums, people are going to believe that we're trying to get something in for the spring, and it seems like we're rushing it. So we could have these. I don't think we should be really letting people believe that we're going to have something ready for spring town meeting. So, and I think perhaps starting public forums now may give the illusion that we're on track to do that. So.
And I don't disagree to what you're saying, Matt. Maybe the spring meeting isn't the good time, the best, because you still have to draft the bylaw and the table of uses and all that. And I know that takes time, as that's going to take some time as well. But I do think this is something that could be put forward once we get the feedback from the master plan. And if we do have these public forums, say in the summer, early summer, based on, what we hear from the master plan as well, that I think you could have something for a fall town meeting. And I think, that could work, but I think the turnaround's gonna be tight.
Hey, Aaron, just to clarify one of the things I think I heard you say, but I just want to double check. Did you say that the next meeting for the master plan and then the survey results and that information collection is going to occur, that April timeframe, that we'll have an actionable deliverable, or is that all wrapped up with the final report that's due, as I understand it, March of 2023? Like when is the, because I don't think that there was any interim deliverable for Wakefield 2030, which makes sense, right? That was a visioning exercise for the entirety of the process. What is that similar? Is this similar to that, where or is it there's the land use component and then the next component and there's interim deliverables that are actionable?
So it's going to be a final report. I think the takeaways from these different, and Theo chime in too, if you want, it is what, and that's what we did for the Vision 2030, which you alluded to, is these different topics that we covered. I wouldn't, I don't think we'll have any deliverables, but we will have data points that we can look at, as well as have the discussions that are going on at these public meetings where there'll be takeaways. I wouldn't call them really deliverables, because I don't think he's going to do like a report after every meeting that we have. But I think that I can provide, and I can work with them on that, just letting them know what we're working on. I can provide you with the data from the surveys, as well as the consensus from these public forums that we have as well. I don't see that being a problem, but a final report from these, no, it's really just going to be kind of data points and overview of the discussions that were had.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand, and if other people think I'm going down the wrong track, let me know. But I'm just trying to understand is if we don't do anything on the Lake District and then we wait for the master plan to play out over the next 3 months, and then there's no concrete deliverable, or we don't outline however we incorporate that data into the process, then what I think I'm hearing is that it's a waste of our time to do anything with this until the master plan process plays out into March of 23, which is fine as long as we're clear that that's where we think this is headed. I think it really depends on what kind of feedback we can really incorporate from the master planning process. And frankly, this is something that, it kind of depends on how pressing of an issue. Matt pointed out there's zoning locks on a number of these parcels anyway. So maybe waiting till March of 23 is fine. But I think we should just be clear-eyed as it relates to what we're going to get in April or May, and if that's going to be enough for the board to be comfortable to move forward with the process.
Well, my thought on this is, I think we can continue to have the discussion going. I just, again, don't want it to look like we're rushing to get something in for spring. And if we can take information from the master planning and start, having larger conversations with it, and including people that perhaps aren't within that group, and have that through us, through continued public forums, we might be able to, shape a more definable, a more, inclusive plan with everyone as we're moving forward. Again, we shouldn't stop this and start it up later, because again, we're going to be back to square one. So I think we just need to keep having this conversation moving forward, and this is a way to do it. But then again, not say that we have, we're trying to meet at a certain point, but if at some point we come up with something and we feel like now's the time to move on it, then the process is playing out. So then we could potentially draft something and get a public hearing going quicker, and perhaps get this on one of the upcoming meetings.
Because the other way you could do it, thinking aloud, is we could have a public forum in advance of the MAPC master plan and explicitly denote that this is to drive conversation around this topic, and that there's this other resource where there's going to be feedback. The MAPC master plan meeting occurs, and then after that, we have it in our mind's eye that there's probably going to be a likely public forum where we would maybe update this presentation with whatever feedback that document had. So you'd have basically the presentation as currently constituted, public or master plan meeting, presentation as currently constituted, plus an extra slide of whatever feedback we had from there. And then that would at least set us up in a position that we could keep the Lake District conversation moving along, and not have like a hard pause.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Matt.
No, go ahead, Theo.
Yeah, I'm perhaps a little naive, or my earlier thought was wanting to sort of keep both plates spinning, so that one supports the other. So I think what Jim says makes sense. And as long as we're not saying we want to get to town meeting with, or get on the warrant by any specific date, and as long as we're not, we're just listening, and one feeds the other. I think that makes sense. But I definitely am really sensitive to Aaron's comments about, we don't want to cannibalize one or detract from the other. But it seems like within the last 2 years, there's already been a lot of discussion, and so this might actually help push people towards the master plan, and then pull them back here, and then
I also think this is really great groundwork for the master plan process too, and the advisory group too, because this was talked about at our advisory group, not this specific overlay, but the lake and how that was brought up at Vision 2030. So I think we've kind of are ahead of the work that would be done at the master plan, kind of laying the groundwork, which I think is really helpful. And so, that's why I think it's really important you share that with me, and maybe one of you comes to our next advisory group meeting when we have the official date to kind of give a run through of what you've worked on and what your thoughts are as we move forward, because we all know this has been a huge topic of conversation in the public, and something that, is important to people given the Vision 2030 results as well. So. And also MIPC might have seen this type of overlay too, not exactly in other communities. And so they might have some great feedback to kind of point you in a direction.
So in that case, Aaron, did you say the date has not been set for the MAPC master plan meeting for the land use, the public land use?
Not yet. We're right now trying to nail our second advisory group meeting. And then we should have a date. Theo, mistake me if I'm wrong. I didn't see a date, but I think, again, we have a contract with them, so we want to make sure we stay within that time. I'm going to say it's probably going to be the end of March, early April. I don't have an official date. I'm just reviewing the email he sent today. I don't have an official date yet, but probably by the next meeting, I should have one.
Because if that's the case, then maybe what would make sense is we target like either the March, I'm looking at when our next scheduled meetings are, and maybe we would schedule our public forum for either that March 8th or March 22nd date, somewhere in that range, to have a public forum for the Lake District, and then be explicit that this is not for, or that we're using, this is part of the process, but it's not necessarily the end of the process because it is the master plan. And I think I'd advocate for trying to get something set up in that time frame in order to support the process that I just laid out, where you have a public forum for the Lake District, you have the master plan process, and then that sets us up that if we wanted to continue the process for any potential Lake District overlay, we'd be able to have that quality feedback from the master plan and have those kind of work in conjunction instead of separate.
All right,
Yeah.
so do we want to set a tentative date, or do we want to set a date for the public forum for either March 8th or the 22nd now?
I would like to see it pushed to March if we're going to set a date. Obviously, our next meeting in February sounds a little busy. I'm happy with March 8th.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, as it is in February, we've got continued Stark Ave. And then we have 2 public hearings for February 22nd, our second meeting, so our first, right now, the first meeting that would be open would be the March 8th. So we could either do March 8th or the 22nd. It's, Jim, when are you looking to be tied up with things for, the next 18 years? When's that?
It's literally the due date's the 7th, which makes me cringe. But, I think, my own selfish reasons aside, I think the 22nd might dovetail nicely if Aaron's thinking that the next meeting for the master plan is late March or early April.
Okay. That works.
I may or may not make sense at that meeting, but
Right.
All right.
Very good.
So we don't need to, put it in stone just yet, but we have a couple meetings. Let's tentatively schedule it for March 22nd then for the first a public forum. We're not going to call it first, second, or whatever. We've had some already, so
Mhm.
we'll set that for March 22nd. Tentatively. All right.
That's great. Thank you.
And Aaron, what format would you like a PDF to share with the MAPC?
Yeah, I think a PDF, and also Susan and I were talking about this too. This is all a great discussion. I have to admit, it's very hard to take notes for this too, for our minutes. So we wanted to create a link to possibly add to our minutes as well, that so maybe we can add this to our website. So we have a link for the edits you guys have done, so we can do,
Yes.
this meeting, and then have it linked to our minutes as well. So
Sure.
a PDF would be great, because that's the best way, that's the way I should link things.
yeah. And
Great
just-
conversations.
I was gonna say, thank you all for engaging in this process. I know it's long, but I think we're getting there, and thank you for everyone who supported it. I know Bill's done a lot of the work here, but it shouldn't be discounted all the other members and Aaron who have also contributed to this content.
No, and let me just echo that too, because I think Bill and Jim, y'all made it a lot more concrete and sort of removed it from, I think, perhaps a lot of the gnashings of teeth that this might have generated. So it's really, really thoughtful.
Thanks. And I think it helps to work in a team, especially when the scope has changed or the purpose changed from more of a, here's our zoning overlay district bylaw, whatever, to, hey, let's just have a discussion. Let's really strip a lot of stuff out and make it more of a discussion piece with the background information, so it becomes a more intelligent discussion. Thanks, everyone.
And I do think it's good timing too. As much as I'm kind of pushing back, I think it's a good time where people are engaged too, for this conversation. So.
Well, Aaron, I appreciate you reaching out to Jim and I to share that as well. Thanks.
Rein us in.
All right. Sounds good. All right, item 9, items not anticipated. I don't have anything at this point, so I don't know if anyone else has any other comments or items I want to share with us at this point. Bill, why don't you go with you first?
I just have a quick one. Safe Streets, which I've been a part of for a few years. The meetings will now be the last or the fourth Wednesday at 7 p.m. If you're interested in that, please shoot me a message, or there's a few people. Well, yeah, shoot me an email if you're interested in getting on that list. During the Safe Streets, it's not a town sanctioned committee or anything. We just get together and we discuss what's going on in other surrounding towns, what we could see better for bicycle routes, safe walking routes, and so on. So we have an agenda for each meeting, but if anybody's interested in joining, let me know and I'll get you on the list.
All right, sounds good. Aaron, did you do anything else or?
Yeah, I'll just kind of give quick updates. on things. I keep what I'm doing, but last week we kind of went to 9, so I figured I'd keep it short. So I just wanted to keep the group in the loop about the MBTA communities. I know that's been a topic of conversation. I did send an email to you guys, sorry, kind of last minute today at 6:30. There is the Massachusetts Municipal Association will be doing a webinar next Wednesday. I think it's at 9:30, talking about how to draft zoning for this MBTA communities that's in the pipeline right now. So if you have the time to attend, please take the time. I think it's going to be really helpful. Also, I advise you, if you haven't yet, check out DHCD's website with all the guidelines and requirements that need to be made, and also when we need to decide if we're going to be compliant. I also mentioned with the whole compliant piece, if we decide not to follow the guidelines, that eliminates us from MassWorks grants, a number of grants at the state level. So I just wanted to add that. I did talk to our town administrator today and discuss how, this is a topic of interest to the board and something that if something we want to continue to put on the agenda or have items not anticipated as we get more guidance from the state in looking at this district, and I can, provide information from internally, more than happy to do that, and working together to get that all set. Another thing to kind of build off Bill's Safe Streets, I've been working with Bill Renault with Shared Streets grant. They have another round. We've actually received 2 grants last year, one to redo some of the crossings at Greenwood Commercial District, as well as a walkway around Lake Quantapowhat to make it more ADA compliant and safe. And so they have another round coming out now. And so we're looking at safe routes. There's safe routes to school, as well as safe streets and priorities they've had, as well as Vision 2030, and seeing if there's anything that makes sense. From what I've seen, a big priority for them is kind of that whole safe routes to school. So that's due in March. Also, if you want to take a look, there's a number of the way the state rolls out grants now is through a one-stop community grant portal. So they list all the grants that are available for the next fiscal year, and towns and municipalities can do an expression of interest of the grants that they're interested in, and they give you feedback. So we did apply for 2 of those last year, and we received them. MassWorks for the water main on North Ave, as well as the master plan. And so we're looking at that now. I'm looking more at more site preparedness and underutilized property grants to look at some properties in our commercial districts and how do we best utilize them and prepare them for their best use. And then also just housing, staying on top of that as well, or SHI is always on my to-do list, and I continue to work on that. There's a number of other things I'm working on that aren't planning related, more economic development. Applied for a grant to do some marketing revolved around Lake Quantapowhat that would drive more economic development into our downtown. And so waiting to hear on that. And yeah, just a lot of different things. There's a lot of grants out there right now, which is great. Yeah, that's kind of my update here. And then of course, master plan, but we've talked about that. So.
All right, thank you, Aaron. Yep, Jim.
I wanted to ask Aaron on the MBTA communities presentation. I know when we connected the other day, you'd mentioned that you're working with Bill on some GIS mapping and to try to figure out how we are in non-compliance, if we are in non-compliance with our current zoning. Do we have an idea of when that will be ready, and or is that a presentation that is going to be something that you can present to the board?
So I'm meeting with him and Katie, who's our GIS analyst, on Friday to kind of talk through numbers and kind of looking at what, it's just hard because there's more guidance that keeps coming out, and they have all these webinars. I'm actually on 2 webinars next week, the one I just mentioned and another one with DHCD. So I would say, I know after talking to Steve and Bill, it's something that we need to talk to the town council about too. So I can't give you an official date. And I just want to make sure that we kind of follow, kind of levels of how we want to bring this information out, but it's something definitely I could present in the near future of where we're at, what we're thinking, working in partnership with the planning board. And so I can't give you an official date, but I can't see that being a problem of, presenting any information I may have.
Okay, because for other members of the board who may not be as familiar, / the conversation that Aaron educated myself and Bill on a lot, my understanding is that we have to agree to be in compliance, in, I think it's July of this year, summer of this year. And then this new zoning has to be in place if we elect to go forward with new zoning to be in compliance with this guidance in summer of 2023. So I think it would be for us, we'd have to have it ready for town meeting, spring town meeting 2023. And so, obviously that's a year plus away, but it can go by very quickly. As well as, it sounds like there's a lot of guidance that's still out there. So, I think unfortunately, this is one of those situations where if the state had waited or done this a little earlier, we could have waited for the master plan, but I'm curious to see if that's, if we can do that, because the master plan is going to come out 3 months before we have to go to town meeting. So there's definitely a challenge there. And I think I'd advocate that we start focusing on this, within the next quarter, in a pretty substantial way, in order to make sure that we have the ability to draft the language. And then, I think it's probably going to be some level of engagement with the public and education of the public of what these grants are that we're trying to maintain eligibility for, if we want to do so, and what changes those would have to occur in order to meet those requirements.
And I was just on their website. If you haven't checked out yet, there's a lot of great information, just to kind of get you up to speed, where you can also submit public comment too. So if you have anything you want to add, you can submit it there. But yes, so it says here, to remain in compliance with DHCD in collecting public comment on the draft guidelines, an MBTA community must submit the MBTA community information form by 5 p.m. on May 2nd, 2022. Then we must hold a briefing of your city council, town council, or select board on the draft compliance guidance no later than May 2nd, 2022, and attest that the MBTA community attests to that on the MBTA community information form. So yes, we do need to go in front of our town council to just about the compliance form before May 2nd, 2022. And then I just there is a lot of technical assistance that's available through the Mass Housing Partnership. There's a webinar on there. You'll see also where our census numbers in regards to housing. And basically just, if you haven't had a chance to check on it, look at it yet, really what this is by right, a minimum gross density of 15 units per acre, not more than a half mile from a commuter rail station, subway station, ferry terminal, or bus station, no age restrictions, and suitable for families with children. So, I mean, I don't want people getting scared that this is going to be, huge development projects that are going to be on. This is anything larger than, it can be anything from 4 units. I think it's 3 or 4 units. So, I mean, around the train station, we have a number of those already. So we could see more of those too, to be in compliance. So
I fundamentally agree. It's just a matter of going from, I think a lot of that stuff is right now special permit in our zoning, if I recall, and it has going to go to by right. And I think it's just going to be a matter of just determining what we have, what we need to change in order to be in compliance, and then having that conversation with the public. And I think that, I think this board has a big role in that process. And so I think I would, unless other people think I'm completely off base, I think that we should start kind of think about how that process wants to work on our side, so that we're not, so that we're properly driving the process and not trying to react last minute.
And right now, if you look at, they have the minimum multifamily district unit capacity requirement for Wakefield is 2,261. So that's why we're calculating. Currently, what we have in our already mixed use overlay district, which is the special permit. So,
Okay.
just something to keep on your radar.
Yeah, and Jim, I agree that earlier we get working on this, the more effective and better thought out process we can do. If we're waiting to the last minute to enact something, it's a recipe for overdevelopment and not smart development. So we definitely want to have something.
It's also a recipe for the town rejecting anything that we propose, even if it's the most well thought out and compliant, meets the minimums of the compliance or whatever, and people don't understand it, or we haven't engaged with the public correctly, the town could theoretically shoot it down and we could lose access to those grant monies. So I want to raise my hand and say, I think that we need to drive that process to help educate the town. And I think Aaron's doing a great job of collecting the information that may or may not be available at this time from the state. But I think that we need to be focused on it as a board in order to help make sure that we do our part.
Yeah, I think the big thing this board can do is the whole education piece too. I think it's huge for this. I think people just get scared when they hear the multifamily and not realizing that does count, 3 to 4 units as well. So, but yeah, and I'm, like I said, I'm working with Bill Renault on this, and Katie Lafferty. Maybe it might make sense as we kind of dig deeper into this, have them come in and just have a kind of a working meeting and discuss it. So definitely keep this on our radar. And we're in better shape. I keep saying this than a lot of communities, I think. So I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Does this mean we're thinking of this would be agenda items for the April meetings? Just for discussion purposes.
I'd say maybe we can talk about this next meeting, maybe not the 22nd, the first March meeting, to kind of see where we're at internally and what information we can provide you, and talk to Steve, because May we need to be in compliance or have that form filled out where we want to, the presentation with town council. So maybe this is a discussion if we decide to put in an agenda item, we have maybe at the next meeting or in March. I would just say that.
I'd advocate, so we've got our next meeting is that February 8th meeting. And then the one after that is February 22nd. It may make sense based on what I'm hearing from you, Aaron, for us to punt on the next meeting, because we already have, I think it's a pretty stacked meeting with Stark Ave, but maybe put this on the agenda for the 22nd in order to make sure that, if you may or may not have all the information collated, but you'll have a pretty good idea of when you have it from what I'm hearing. And maybe that's just the best way to do it, so we're not wasting time when we're already going to be having a long meeting on Stark Ave.
I would just want to add to that. I think we added 2 public hearings to February 22nd. So looking at March 8th, or March 8th. That's the better time.
Yeah, that could make sense too. I mean, it's only 2 weeks.
Yep.
Well, I'm almost pushing till after the town council's been presented with their information that we should start working on this. I don't think we should jump the gun on it, but we still have some time. I don't, again, I'm always saying this, I don't think we need to rush into this too quickly until we know exactly where we're going with it. So
I do agree. I do think that town council should be, it hasn't been on their agenda or brought, I'm sure they've heard about it, but really a formal presentation or brought to their, and it's something we talked about. So the 22nd, is I think already too packed. Let me see if I can get something, and maybe we can talk about items not anticipated next time if I have any more information, and then we can kind of take it from there.
all right, sounds good. All right, if no one has anything else for item number 9, I'm going to item 10, adjournment.
Like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Bill Spalding, seconded by Jim Hogan. Roll call vote, Theo Knoll,
Yes.
Jim Hogan,
Yes.
Bill Spalding,
Yes.
and myself, yes. All right, thank you, everyone.